Hey guys, Liz here from the Nail Hub, and I wanted to use today's episode to actually continue a conversation that really, to me, got revved up when I posted a clip of it on my Instagram. So on the Nail Hub Instagram, I posted just a short clip of my most recent, well, not most recent, but my podcast episode about Earn Your Weird. And within that episode, I posted a clip about, we as nail technicians and service providers in general, anybody who's in the customer service space, we sometimes tend to do really interesting emotionally behavioral stuff to try and bond with clients or to try and I think create loyalty to our businesses. I think creative people and customer service people and service providers tend to be those empathetic, heart-driven type of personalities, which is totally amazing and totally fair. However, I do think that as someone who is more emotionally driven, that is when you have to really challenge yourself to be more and more fact-based and transactional and business-focused, because the emotion side of it, making decisions from here, can oftentimes get you into trouble with your business because you're not actually thinking about them ahead of time and planning and strategizing. And I use the word strategy a lot in my episodes and in my content because it's really important to get away from those kind of last minute decisions where you're just trying to respond on the fly. It's really important to sit down and actually think about what behaviors are you driving by the decisions and habits that you are creating. So a good one is, oversharing. Is oversharing actually hurting or helping your business? Is bending over backwards for your clients and discounting your services because you somehow feel guilty about the price points that you're charging? Or maybe you don't really know why you're charging the prices that you are. So as soon as a client pushes back, you immediately relinquish and say, okay, I'll do it for cheaper, or I'll do it for free, or I'll take extra time, or I'll come in on a Sunday and do your nails when I'm supposed to be with my family. All of those little things that you end up doing, giving your all to your client, I think is in a way to try and get the confirmation from that person and that validation from that client so that you are able to emotionally fill that vessel because you're constantly giving all of yourself. And so you expect those clients to psychically know that you need to be emotionally and financially supported. And this post that I put on Instagram, this clip of my recent podcast episode, was really interesting because some people really got what I was saying. Other people really struggled with it because they were saying, my clients don't understand that I need to put food on the table. And I get where that feeling comes from because if you are giving your all to your customer or to your client, right? And I'll talk about customer versus client in a future episode. But if you're really giving your all and you feel like you're not getting it back, that's going to create some resentment, some bitterness. And I think that's where that depression sinks in and that feeling of, why don't people understand how much I'm giving of myself? Why don't people tip me? Why don't people just want to pay the prices that I charge without complaining about it? And I think that we are approaching this as an industry from a really wrong point of view. If you make your business more transactional, there is no question about whether or not you can put food on your table, or if you're getting reimbursed for all of the effort that you're putting into this special experience that you're creating for your clientele. So if you are just on the fly feeling guilty about your prices, which usually comes from the fact that you don't really know where your prices came from, you really have no actual calculated basis for where your prices come from. If you're just winging it and you're saying, I think it should be X because I saw this, someone else posted that they charge X for a gel polish manicure, so I'll charge the same. As soon as your bottom line starts to hurt because you're really not actually keeping the amount of money that you need to put food on the table, that's where stuff starts to get really tricky. And then you immediately justify and say, well, if I just do a little bit more, maybe people will want to support me more. I can't raise my prices because I don't want to get criticized for that, but maybe I'll just put more effort in and people will support me more, both financially and emotionally. And that is completely the wrong way to approach this, okay? Imagine if you went to any other business, and I always use restaurants because I feel like restaurants are a really good analogy for any service-based business. When you go to a restaurant, you don't sit there eating the food and paying your bill thinking, is the chef going to be able to put food on his table today? Is the owner of this business going to be able to put food on their table today? And you automatically assume that the prices that they are charging are supposed to cover all of their expenses for this building that you're sitting in, all of the food that you just ate, all of the service people that work there. And again, gratuity we'll leave separate because gratuity is a totally different conversation. But I'm just talking about the price that you pay for something, right? You as the customer, when you pay that listed price, if they provide a menu to you and you pay the price on it and you get what you wanted and you paid what they asked for, don't you assume that in that price they are charging you based on everything that they need to cover? That's exactly how clients in your chair feel too. If you say something is $50, they may scoff and go, wow, you're kind of pricey compared to other places I've gone to. Who cares if they criticize your price? Your price is $50. And if you're actually charging $50, that client, if they're willing to actually transact with you and they find value in giving you $50 for your services, they are assuming that that $50 they just paid you is going to cover what you need to cover. So if that's not actually covering what you need to cover, you need to stop what you're doing, sit down and actually review what you're offering, number one, and see if it's in high demand. And two, actually analyze your prices and take a look at what you're actually doing, okay? So instead of making this a nebulous, ethereal thing, it's really about facts. I know what my time is worth, but it's more than just time. You have to make sure that you're covering all of your overhead, your rent, your products, your towels, your cleansers, your chair, your desk, the wear and tear on your body, your e-file, the maintenance you have to do on those things once in a blue moon, the fact that you're going to have to purchase a lamp every 3 years once it starts to degrade. I mean, all of those kind of tangible expenses, whether or not we think about them in the moment, even the gas that it costs you to drive to work every day and sit there and take appointments, the lights that are on, the air conditioning that you have, all of that stuff is stuff that needs to be built into your price so that when you charge a specific price, you know that not only can you actually pay for the things that you need to pay for your business, but that you also get to go home with a livable wage. Gratuity is not the way to make a livable wage. Gratuity should be absolute icing on the cake. Okay? And this is more important than it ever has been before. And I think I've already said this once or twice on my channel, which is this conversation is more important than it ever has been before because we're dealing with very serious inflation within the United States. People are having a hard time paying for their groceries. They still want to get their nails done, but they're having a hard time paying for basic expenses like gas in their car and groceries. So you have to be understanding of the fact that you have to hold fast, but you also have to make sure that you're dialed in so that when you actually charge a client X amount of dollars, that there is no extra expectation from them. There is no extra, well, why didn't they tip? Well, why don't they actually, give me accolades? Why aren't they more supportive? Why do they critique my prices? They're going to critique your prices no matter what. People are just like that. People are always looking for a deal. Okay, so get over that part of it. Look at what you can do to actually set yourself up where your menu, you know that if you're going to charge that amount of money for that service, that you're going to actually be able to make the money that you need out of that service. Now, another part of this that is really important beyond pricing, beyond being transactional in our businesses, is making sure that you can actually perform those services. So that is something that I'm going to get into a little bit more in some future episodes. I'm going to talk about how to speed up your service times. I know a lot of you struggle with that. And also the other part of it is making sure that you can actually perform a service that does look good, is durable, is, at the level of whatever you're charging. So if you are charging more premium prices, and it may be for your skill set, it may be for the amazing job that you do, it may be for whatever full experience that you're providing, that's totally fine. But you have to make sure that you can actually commit to that and you can perform at that level consistently. Because if you're charging a premium, but your service is kind of doing this for the clients, that lack of consistency for them, there's going to be a disparity between what they're paying and what they're getting. And pretty soon they are going to actually be critiquing. And that critiquing may not actually be vocal. It may be people actually looking to no longer get their services done by you because they can't rely on the fact that when they give you $50, they're going to get at least $50 worth of value. Okay? And that value equation does differ from person to person. It's okay for someone to not want to pay you for your services. That doesn't mean that you actually should bend over backwards and say, oh, okay, you don't want to pay $50. All right, I'll charge you 40. No, that's not what this is about. Name another business that you walk into and you go, I don't feel like paying $7 for a Starbucks coffee. Can you give it to me for $5? I mean, no one on the planet does that. Why do nail technicians do it? I don't know. I think the real reason why we actually have these kinds of behaviors is because there's a lack of strategy. Because when you don't know why you're charging a certain price and how you calculated that price, when you don't have any of that mental evidence to back yourself up when you say something like my price is X, of course you're going to be wishy-washy if you don't have any of that in the back of your mind, because you're just going to go, ooh, like I kind of just picked this price out of thin air and now I feel really bad that someone's critiquing me. And as a natural people pleaser, because creatives are usually very empathetic people, very emotionally driven people, and most of us when we're in a service-based industry, we are people pleasers. We like serving others, right? So as a people pleaser, you're more likely to, again, reel up and say, oh, yeah, I know she's kind of like complaining about the $50. Like maybe I should discount it. Maybe I should give her freebies. Maybe I should do X, Y, and Z to make her happy or him happy. Again, it's so easy to fall into that trick of feeling guilty or getting wishy-washy because you don't have those pillars. You don't have that analysis to say, no, I know that I need to charge $50 because otherwise I'm not going to be able to cover all of the stuff that I need to cover for my business, and I'm not going to be able to put food on the table, period. So there's a lot to this conversation, but one of the things that stood out to me when I posted this on Instagram, and this is a challenge for you, so I'm going to actually give you some homework. I'm going to challenge you to do a very specific exercise because I do think that a lot of you are saying, hey, people are just not willing to pay the prices that I'm wanting to charge or that I need to charge. And I also think that as creatives, we tend to get fixated on what we would want instead of what's actually in demand. And I think this is also where this, one of the platitudes I was talking about in one of my previous episodes was this charge what you're worth conversation. I think using that phrase is probably one of the most damaging, confusing mantras that has ever swept across our industry. Because when you say something like charge what you're worth, not charge what you need to cover for your business expenses, or charge based on your demand, or charge based on your skill set, or any combination thereof, when you actually say a word like worth, it is such a personal, emotional word. That word choice to me is absolutely terrible. And I can understand why someone probably said that because it does incite this reaction of, yeah, I'm going to be confident, and I'm going to feel good about myself, and I'm going to charge what I'm worth. But it has nothing to do with your personal worth. It has nothing to do with that. And if you're basing this on some kind of mantra like charge what you're worth, and then people don't want to pay it, imagine what that does to your confidence level. Imagine what that does to you emotionally when you're like, I'm charging what I think I'm worth, but I'm just getting a ton of backlash from clientele, and people are telling me I'm not worth that much. I mean, how terrible is that? How degrading can that possibly be to think that you're worth, $100 an hour, and people are like, I'm not paying that? It's going to make you feel really icky about yourself. So that's why I don't want you to use or think about things like worth or really emotionally fueled words like that. I want you to think about creating demand, okay? So today's homework is about actually thinking about demand, because like I said, we as creatives, we tend to try to create demand around something that we ultimately want to do. So just as a simple example, okay, if it were up to me and I had my dream services and my dream colors and my dream whatever, I would probably do green nails on everyone. Green is my favorite color. And I love green. I love green glitter. I love green gel polish. I love green. How many clients on the planet would wear green nails? I mean, a fraction of a percent. And that's a fraction of a percent of all clients. Imagine then taking that number and going, how many of those people that love the color green on their nails actually live in my area where they would actually come and visit me as a service provider? I mean, it's an infinitesimally small fraction of people that I could actually start a business doing that. And I do think a lot of nail technicians, they start a business focused on something that they think is popular or they think is in demand. But remember, we're coming from the perspective of what we see in our circles of influence. We're coming from the perspective of nail art and long nails and all of the wonderful things that when we learn a skill set, we want to then apply on our clients. But I would argue that most clients don't want 2-inch long sculptured extensions, nor are they really willing to pay for it. Again, there might be a super, super small percentage of those people who do. And yes, with enough marketing and enough strategy, you can create a business that is based on that. But for the average nail technician, for the average person trying to do this, I don't think that's going to work. Clients really tend to lean towards very basic stuff, and it's for a reason. They have to go and live, different lives and different demands that they have and what they've been, what their kind of circle of influence is. Some people are willing to push the boundaries, but for the most part, people tend to just stick to more basic stuff. So we as nail technicians get frustrated because we take all these amazing classes and we spend all this money on continuing education, which is usually geared towards these, what I would call extreme types of skills and extreme types of services. I mean, when was the last time you signed up for a class that was like speed gel manicures, literally one color gel manicures, being able to perform them in 35 minutes? Have you ever taken a class like that? Probably not. You've probably taken classes about nail art, about sculptured extensions, about crazy, ridiculously expensive product lines that you maybe dropped, $700+ between the education and the product. But did any of that actually apply to your base clientele? I don't know. So here's the homework for today before I get too long-winded on this episode. I want you to, on your day off, and hopefully you have a day off, like a Monday or Tuesday are usually really common for nail technicians. I want you to go to a public place. It could be a coffee shop, it could be a mall, it could be anywhere where you're going to run into a bunch of women with their nails or nails not done. It could be nails done or nails not done. And I want you to approach at least 5 people, and I want you to ask them, what is the one thing they would change about their nails if they could? And you can approach this, again, introduce yourself, say, hey, I'm doing a little bit of research. I'm a nail technician. I'm doing a little bit of research on clients' pain points when it comes to their nails. Would you mind if I just asked you one simple question about your nail care? Most people would be like, okay, sure, whatever. You ask them, if there was one thing you could change about your nails, what would it be? Just ask them that. I want you to do that, and I want you to actually comment below this video and tell me what those people said. What did the majority of the people that you interviewed? And if you can do more than 5 people, that's great. You could also do this every so often where you try and grab 5 people every time you go out and you do something. Like next time I go to, Marshall's Home Goods, I'll approach a few ladies and say, hey, oh my gosh, like I was just, wanting to ask you a quick question. I'm a nail professional and I'm doing some, industry research. Would you mind just answering one question about your nail care? And again, ask them, if there was one thing you could change about your nails, what would it be? Okay? And if they already have beautiful nails on, ask them what they would change about the way that they currently get their nails done. Is it price point? And again, don't lead them into the question, but I'm curious, is it the way the service is completed? Is it the time it takes? Is it the money? Is it a combination of those things? But most people, if you just ask them, what is one thing that you would change about your nails if you could? I think most people will tell you exactly straight up what that is. And that is really what you should base your business around. I actually just got asked recently on social as well. People are saying, hey, I've been kind of out of the market for a minute, or I've been doing the same thing for a long time and I'm needing to revamp my business because things have changed. And I'm finding that, things aren't the way they used to be and I need to kind of revamp and reinvent myself. I was like, okay, cool. And they're like, how would you start a business from scratch? The number one thing I would start with is not looking at spaces to rent or buying product or coming up with a menu or doing all of those things that we think of, on our own. I would go and I would do some actual local research. I would actually look at what is in demand. Because if everyone tells you, I'm looking for a $35 1-hour gel polish manicure that I can go to and I can afford every 2 weeks. Like literally if someone was like, I just need something that's X and most of the people in your area are saying that, there's your demand right there. That is what you should be offering. And it may not be your heart's desire. It may not be something that personally identifies with you. But if you really want to be a machine and you want to actually create a business that just runs, think about developing a business around what's actually in demand. Now, you can tweak it a little bit, and as soon as you get that business going and as soon as you start making money, of course you can start to get those clients to do more amazing things. But it's getting them in the door first, and it's building that actual successful, profitable business that is going to allow you to have all of the fun money and time that you can then go, hey, I've already got a well-oiled business going. I've already got this like churn and burn of clients who I'm in a ton of demand for these services. You can then jack up your prices a little bit when you get completely fully booked, lose a few people, charge a little bit more. You're going to continue to grow that demand because you base that demand on what already was in demand. Has nothing to do with personal worth. It has to do with demand. And then once you get that going, you can then get clients to add on to your services that are more fun clients. If you want to have one a week or one a day or whatever it is that are more fun services, then you have the luxury of being able to do that because you're not trying to put food on the table. The food is there, you're rocking it, you're able to actually pay all of your bills, you're actually able to make a livable wage. And then you have the luxury of being able to be creative and fun and do extracurriculars, right? So I want you to try this. I want you to go to a public place. I want you to actually interview a handful of people. Again, if you can do more than 5, that's wonderful, but less than 5 is going to be a terrible statistical sample. You're going to get like probably, people in every different which way. If it were up to me, I'd have you do like 50 people because that's truly what you're going to need to really dictate what's going on. But I want you to actually ask. And also, this is an interesting question for your existing clients. You may not want to hear the answer, but I think it would be interesting to have clients be like, hey, if there was one thing you could change about the way that, you're getting your nails done, like what would it be? Because maybe you're also not addressing stuff that your current clients want. Maybe things have changed. Maybe you need to readdress that and maybe reinvent yourself and make some adjustments in the meantime. So let me know how it goes. Comment below this video with your results of those interviews, those statistical samples that you're going to take from these people. I want to see what you come across. And I also would be really interested to know how much that differs from what you thought you were offering or what you thought was popular or what you've been focused on. Is what people want in your area aligned with what you're also focused on, or is there a big disparity between those two things? So let me know. I think this will be helpful, and we'll go from there. Bye, guys.